Welcome back to Behind the Grind. I'm Nash Crowther, and joining me today is Keith Hornsby. Now, Keith, you played in the G League for 3 years with the Texas Legends. What was your G League experience like? Was it pretty cutthroat, like guys trying to fight to get an NBA contract?
Yeah, that's pretty good way to describe it. For me personally, it was very up and down. Started out really down. My first year was incredibly tough, kind of like a rude awakening to that type of level of play and that type of pro level where you go from college and you're playing against guys. If you're a senior, you're the oldest guy, and you're playing against freshmen and college guys, and you get in the G League and you're playing against some of the best players in college, but from all ages. I had several NBA veterans on my team my first year, and it was very hard for me to get playing time. But that's how the G League is. It's so cutthroat. And yes, so many guys, we all have the same goal. I mean, let's be honest, nobody does the G League for the money, shall I say. I mean, it's all about playing in front of NBA personnel, and NBA teams, and hopefully, if you're lucky and you play well, you get that shot. But 3 years, yeah, I never planned on playing 3 years in the G League, but kind of fate had it that's where I was for 3 years, and yeah, it was tough, but I got a lot better. It forced me to improve my game a lot, just to hang and to even start excelling. So yeah, G League's no joke though. It's incredibly tough and has a lot of talent.
And in the G League, you played with former Six Man of the Year, the youngest Six Man of the Year ever, Ben Gordon. Did you find that you were able to learn a lot from this game and apply it to your own in some ways?
Yeah, perfect example. He came in mid-season, and it was like that was the story of my first 2 years. Really, is like every time I would start to play well and kind of get a bigger role, somebody new would come in. And when you got guys like Ben Gordon come in, you kind of like throw your hands up, and it's just kind of like, well, now I got to compete with him. And now he was 34 when he came in, so I'm not gonna say he was washed up, because man, he could still really play. But yeah, I definitely learned some things from him. His mainly his composure. The way he played, you could just tell he'd been through it. He's had the experience. He played with such comfort, and it's like it was as if basketball just ran through his blood, basically. His ability to make difficult and contested shots, and stay relaxed while defenders are all over him, and that was something that I was most impressed with, I think. And he had a few killer games. I mean, he never got a call up. I think a guy like him would be a long shot just because of his age. And but yeah, I mean, it was cool just playing with Ben Gordon. Like sometimes if we're on the bench at the same time and in the game, I just kind of look over and be like, damn, that's Ben Gordon. I watched him in college. I watched him with the Bulls a lot, and now we're teammates. It's kind of like an amazing accomplishment, sort of. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Speaking of legendary teammates, you played in the preseason with the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. What was it like watching a top three power forward of all time play the game of basketball?
The first thing I picture about Dirk is how hard it was for him to get ready for practice each day in training camp. I mean, he was pretty crusty by the time, I got there. He was probably almost 30, 38, 39 years old. So he was, it's funny, he played another 2 years after that. I couldn't believe it, to be honest, because he could barely run up and down the floor during my training camp time with him. But he's still Dirk Nowitzki, and he still got that signature shot, his signature moves, his one-legged step back, high arc shot. There's a few times I actually had to switch on him and guard him, and he's quite a bit taller than me, and he has a high release and literally impossible for me to block. But he just rise above, and I'd contest the crap out of it, and it just would switch through as if I wasn't even there. And he just like would pat me on the butt and like, welcome to the league. But he was being in practice with him each day is another thing, even more extreme, obviously, because like you said, top 3 power forward than say a Ben Gordon, who was good, but sharing a locker room with him was a dream come true. And he's a great guy. He was nice to me, and he didn't have to be. I was kind of like a training camp body, didn't mean much to the organization, but he was really cool. And I'll always remember that.
And in your last year at LSU and in your last year with the Texas Legends, you were near 50, 40, 90. Do you find that being an efficient shooter is a big part of your game?
I was always told that, people look at percentages, but you can't focus solely on percentages. And you know what? I was told that if I want a shot at the NBA or a shot at playing professional, a guy like me, I couldn't be a mid 30s to low 30s 3-point shooter. I mean, you always want to shoot it well, so you always shoot for high percentages, but obviously it's difficult. But yeah, in the first 2 years in the G League, I struggled. I think I was 35%. The NBA line, it's farther back, and I kind of changed my shot. I mean, my shot at LSU was wild, very odd looking, and I had to change that, and that affected my percentage, I think. But by my third year, I led the league in 3-point percentage at I think 49%, and that just goes from the work I put in, the repetition, endless repetition, and it was fun. It's always fun when you make more. But yeah, I think if I have any chance of success in basketball, I need to be as efficient as possible. Given that I'm also an undersized shooting guard, I'm a 6'3", 6'4" shooting guard, and the highest levels of pro ball, that's not very big. So if I'm gonna be good at shooting, you gotta have the good percentages. So that's pretty good. You notice that though. Yeah, not too many
Uh,
people do, I feel.
yeah, and now that you're playing overseas in Germany, is the NBA still a goal for you? Like, are you still looking to try and make your way back to the league?
Oh man, if the opportunity came up, I would go back in a heartbeat. I mean, there's nothing like the NBA. But after my last year in the G League, where I shot so well, and the G League, like I said, probably after the first question, it's tough. It's really tough. And I thought I did the best as I could after my third year. So then I kind of shut the door on that in my mind when I went overseas, because then now the goal is like to do as well as I can overseas. But obviously, if the NBA comes calling, I'll be going to them in a heartbeat. So who
And
knows?
how hard of a decision was it to make to move to Germany to play basketball?
You mean just overseas in general from G League?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to, like I said in the first question, I never planned on playing the G League for 3 years. I tried to go overseas after my first year, but I had such a crappy, like mediocre first season in G League. I had got no interest overseas, and it's very tough unless you're just a killer in the G League, like one of the best scorers or something who has had NBA experience to get a good first opportunity in Europe. Man, after my third year, it was still tough for me to get a job in Europe, and I was trying every year to get one. And just third year, I switched agencies, and I think that was a great move for me. But yeah, it was what I wanted to do. It wasn't, obviously with going overseas, you're overseas, you're not in the States, so there comes the lifestyle kind of changes and difficulties. But I knew that'd be tough, but for basketball, I really wanted to, and I did. Luckily, was able to.
And as a professional basketball player, what is your diet and workout regimen like?
And now I focus mostly on kind of maintenance and just staying healthy. This, especially when you're overseas and the season is 9 to 10 months, like you're practicing every day. I'm kind of just trying to harness energy as much as I can. Diet wise, luckily, I was raised as a healthy eater. So that was instilled in me early, and I've maintained that. And obviously, by choosing to play basketball, that's helped out. Not many people have had success eating fast food all the time, but yeah, it's for sure. I mean, luckily, my wife is a very good cook. I can't really cook anything, but really one thing. But she she's very good. She keeps me well fed, and then the workout regimen is just always do as much as I can without just crushing myself. I always want to have good energy for the next practice, for the next game, especially during this long season where your body can get run down pretty easily if you're not careful. But you always got to put the work in whenever you can, and I will do that whenever I feel good, and I've been feeling good. Lucky enough to be healthy this year, so yeah.
And playing in Germany, do you find it easier to connect with American guys like Ricky Paulding?
Ricky. Um, of course, yeah. Every American player just associates easier with Americans. But that doesn't mean you can't, you know, get good relationships and become great friends with the native players. When I was in Poland last year, I still talk to some of the Polish guys that are on my team. Great guys. That's one of the best, coolest parts of me going overseas is meeting these basketball players from different cultures. It was really cool sharing the locker room with them, and just and Germany's no, the same. I have great German teammates, and but yeah, naturally you associate a little easier with the Americans. You just have more in common with them.
And when you first moved overseas, did you find that there was a lot of culture shock?
In some ways, yes. Uh, a lot of very little things. Um, I guess the driving wasn't too bad. Surprisingly, a lot of people ask me, well, gosh, the driving there, crazy. A lot of people think, in the countries I've been in, the steering wheel is on the other side, but really, I think that's just in England. And so yeah, that's been easy. But little things like having to pay for grocery carts, being in the grocery store and they don't bag your groceries, you know, parking being difficult most places, and then just being in a store and the native language not being English. I mean, you never know if you're going to get somebody who speaks English. And then luckily I'm learning some German, but in Poland, if they didn't, you're just completely stranded kind of. But nor should you expect them to speak English. And I've noticed a lot of native speakers in Poland and Germany appreciate it if you do try to speak Polish or German. So I have. Um, but yeah, there's been tons of little things just living in Europe that you have to adjust to. But after a while, it's your home for the season, and you got to get used to it and embrace it. I think that's big.
And when you have a highlight play, maybe a clutch three, you put some dribble moves on somebody, do you have a go-to celebration?
you know, I did. I did in college. I used to do all the three, all that type of stuff. I mean, I've never really been the player to like cross somebody like crazy. I wish I could be, but it's just not my natural, I think, game. But yeah, I used to do all types of three celebrations, like the pistols, like, like in college you can see all that. And then I guess when I got to a pro level, I just kind of cooled out on all that. Um, I guess I want to say I hit so many shots, it became kind of to me it just wasn't cool anymore. It's just a part of my youth. I'm all for it. I think it's cool, but just now I'll just like scream or something like that. But I won't do any like hand signals. I like beat my chest or something if I hit a few threes in a row. But really, I just feed off my teammates, joy that we share whenever I or them gets on a little roll, heats up. So Unfortunately, I
And
don't have a good one for you.
it's all right. Growing up, what was your favorite NBA team?
Being from Virginia, boy, are you gonna like the Wizards? That was kind of tough. I mean, they were never good when I was growing up. I mean, when MJ was there, I kind of liked them for a little bit, but that's just shamefully bandwagon. like, I like the, I like the Bulls growing up. MJ, who didn't really like him, but I really did. I like the Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, the 7-second offense D'Antoni Suns. That was exciting and always a fun team to watch. And yeah, so that was my favorite team, I think, for a while in my childhood.
And D'Antoni really was a modern pioneer of modern basketball with the 7 seconds or less with Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire, Steve Nash. That was a fun team to watch. Uh, but growing
Sure.
up, did you have a favorite player?
I was recently asked this, and yeah, being from Virginia and being kind of a white shooter, like JJ Redick was my that's why I wear number 4 actually. Is start all started when he was 4 at Duke, and he was also in the same AAU program as me. Boo Williams, the big Virginia AAU program. He was kind of a big role model for an up and coming guy like me. When from the time I was 10 on, I always followed JJ, and even now, I mean, he's still playing. It's like his 16th year in the league, and he's still effective. And I can really learn a lot from his energy and his lifestyle and his commitment to his job. Just and I like his approach to life in general. I think he's pretty innovative in the way that he goes about family life, mixing life and basketball, which can be tough. So JJ is my guy, but I also love Derrick Rose. I still like Derrick Rose. I loved his athleticism, and I like Russell Westbrook too. That's kind of like that'll be a 50-50 for a lot of people, but I always like his competitiveness and his fire, and just a fun guy to watch.
Derrick Rose is one of my favorite point guards of all time. It's a shame that he got injured like that, but he's still very effective in the NBA
Yeah.
today, and I'm hoping that he'll get traded to a contender this year because I'd like to see him win a ring.
Well,
uh,
for sure, one of the biggest, most impressive things about him is how he's kind of rebounded from those injuries and still been able to have an effective career. I mean, he can still move well. A lot of people I know would have thrown the towel in after multiple big knee injuries, and that's a mentally strong guy, and I totally admire him even more now for that.